The Journalists' Union wants national shield laws to protect reporters from going to jail for upholding their profession's code of ethics. The code demands journalists protect all confidential sources and their communications. 5 journalists currently facing the prospect of convictions, jail or fines for failing to reveal information in 3 separate court cases. One of those cases, which resumes tomorrow, involves Australia's richest woman, Gina Rinehart. Mrs Rinehart has subpoenaed 2 Fairfax journalists to reveal information they've obtained about her family. Both journalists have written extensively about Mrs Rinehart. Michael Vincent reports.
Gina Rinehart's private family problems are now a very public court case. But it's not just her family. She's also pursuing Fairfax columnist Adele Ferguson to reveal all communications with her son going back to October 2011.
I've never found myself in this position where I've been served a subpoena by the country's richest person. They want my sources and everything that I discussed with the source. And if I don't, I could find myself in contempt of court, which is a criminal offence and can land me in 2 years imprisonment.
How intimidating is that?
It's incredibly intimidating.
Adele Ferguson also wrote an unauthorised biography of Gina Rinehart.
It's really to do with freedom of the press here. You know, if you start stifling conversations between people and having it exposed in court cases, then people won't be talking to journalists anymore and you won't be able to expose untoward activity in society.
But the journalist does have some very high-profile supporters. Malcolm Turnbull tweeted earlier this year that Adele Ferguson is doing the right thing protecting her sources, and Gina Rinehart would be well advised, given her media interests, to reconsider. Gina Rinehart owns shares in Fairfax, but that hasn't stopped her targeting another Fairfax journalist.
We're not talking about cabinet documents or tax records or police records. You know, we've just got information that the richest person in the country just didn't want us to have out there.
Steve Pennells won the highest award for Australian journalism last year for his work writing extensively about Gina Rinehart. His case returns to court tomorrow.
We're not above the law, journalists aren't, we're not saying we're above the law, but then, you know, when the law is being used to attack journalists and their sources for doing their job, and just because they've got information out there that certain people don't want out there, then there needs to be some form of protection, and what's existing there now isn't good enough.
3 other Fairfax journalists are also facing court cases in which they will be asked to divulge their sources. The Journalists' Union has proposed shield laws be agreed by all states, territories and the federal government to protect them. New South Wales Greens MP David Shoebridge wants those laws made retrospective.
Well, one of the other holes in the legal protection is there's no protection at all for journalists when the demand for information is coming from royal commissions or commissions of inquiry. And we've recently had 2 very high-profile commissions established at a state and federal level about child sexual abuse. Now, the only reason we got those royal commissions was because of brave journalism and journalists protecting and divulging material from confidential sources.
The Shadow Attorney General, George Brandis, helped write the federal shield laws and was a guest at last Friday's Press Freedom Dinner.
Do you think a journalist should ever have to go to jail to protect a source?
No, I don't, not for that reason alone. No, that's the whole principle of shield laws. I don't think that, I think a journalist, and this is the point I made when I introduced the legislation in the Senate, which the Labor Party initially opposed and then reversed itself, is that the relationship between a journalist and a source in the course of bona fide journalistic practice ought to be respected by the law as a category of privileged confidential relationship.
Our democracy is unsustainable without the courage of journalists. Now, courageous journalists are not always right. They don't always get it right. But you know something? Neither do politicians. And we have parliamentary privilege.
Lateline asked Gina Rinehart's office for her reasons for subpoenaing the journalists. We didn't get a response. Michael Vincent, Lateline.